Hey, greetings everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lore of Warcraft. You are here, I am here, and let's curl up together as we look at some more of the World of Warcraft Official Magazine. We're going to take a little time travel back to 2010 today with the Blizzcon All Access Pass in our fourth issue of the first volume quarterly series of the World of Warcraft Official Magazine, which actually made its debut at the 2009 BlizzCon, and it did not make it to the 2011 BlizzCon before they bailed. I think I'm most interested in when we get to the next issue to find out why that is, but for now, we're going to do a little time travel. The last time we read this, we read about the different dungeons of Cataclysm, because when this is dropping here at late 2010, I believe, this is when Cataclysm had just dropped. So they're kind of getting into all kinds of features as that unrolls. We've also been playing through World of Warcraft Classic. We're catching up with our Horde characters, and we're very close to finishing already the Hillsbrad Foothills as a Horde. We have a Forsaken Warlock. He sure did kill a lot of Hillsbrad humans on the last episode. But we have a little bit more to go. It was all in all a pretty successful run. There's a lot of good utility with classic warlocks, or just warlocks in general. So stay a while and listen now as we dive in. Bear with me a little bit. My voice is a little wrecked today. I don't know if it's the fresh tree we have in the house is waging a war of attrition on my sinuses, or if I am fighting off battle with the Frizzies floating out there in the winter universe. So I appreciate you guys just through thick and thin. Many of you are just awesome, and whether it's the click clack of a little dog, or squeaky chairs, or my coughs and sneezes, a lot of you guys are just there with me for the ride, and I love you for it. All right, so it says Blizzard's celebration of the Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo franchises brings 2 days of magic to the player community, but it's hard work that makes it real. Isn't that the case for essentially everything of value in every profession across the world? So I'm sure you guys out there as well are working hard doing your own things, and you know how it takes a village in most scenarios, regardless of the size of that village, to get some quality produced. Friday, the first day of BlizzCon, is always an exciting time. Hours before the show begins, lines form to get into the hall. The doors open, badge holders are admitted. This is, I guess, what the badge would look like if you happen to be a guy or gal that was around back then. Maybe you have a badge like that in storage somewhere. And there's a rush to find the best seats for the opening ceremony, for first dibs on playing the latest builds of games in development, or to get an autograph from a Blizzard artist. Stepping through the convention center doors reveals a Blizzard Entertainment wonderland, rows of hundreds of PCs loaded with the latest versions of World of Warcraft Cataclysm, Diablo 3, and StarCraft 2. An immense main stage for the opening and closing ceremonies, larger-than-life statues of Jim Raynor, Illidan Stormrage, and the Queen of Blades, esports arenas, merchandise stores, art galleries, vendor booths, and chairs. Lots of chairs. They also would do something called a Dev Roundtable. This was a kind of an annual thing that Chris Metzen and others would do. You can actually find a lot of them on YouTube. So you check up the BlizzCon or Blizzard or World of Warcraft Dev Roundtable. We are actually going to watch those together with some pause and commentaries at some point. We're not there yet, but it's going to be in the works because there's just some interesting, I think it'll be neat. I've watched some of them, and I think it'll be worthwhile. We don't usually do visual media content like that, but I think it will be cool to do. Here we go. More of the lined up fans. What is BlizzCon? Well, BlizzCon is a celebration of the Blizzard Entertainment gaming universes and the community that surrounds them, sharing the latest and greatest from the Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo franchises. Attendees get a chance, and now it's even more than that. Now you've also got Overwatch in there. I would not be surprised if Call of Duty was involved, since I believe it's Activision acquired Blizzard. So I'm sure it's more than just those nowadays. Attendees get a chance to play in development versions of Blizzard's games, participate in dance and costume contests, interact with developers, and just hang out with like-minded gamers. I'm a little bit disappointed that in the mass lines here, I was going to say we don't see any cosplayers, but there's one, it looks like. Interest in the event is so great that the allotment of the tickets for the 2010 show sold out in a matter of minutes, but the thousands who can't get a ticket aren't completely shut out. The show has been available on a pay-per-view basis since 2008 via satellite and since 2009 on the internet, and that's still probably the most common way to attend the thing, although I have to admit, never have I ever attended or watched a single BlizzCon. I consider myself a diehard fan, but I've never been a big convention guy. No, my children are, not for Blizzard, but for Marvel and DC and just all kinds of different things. Really get into it, dress up, and do a little cosplay of their own. But the crowds don't appeal to me. BlizzCon 2011 will take place October 21st and 22nd in the Anaheim Convention Center in Southern California. That's another part of it. I did live in California for a long time, but little before the era of BlizzCon. Near Blizzard's entertainment headquarters in Irvine. Yeah, I'm trying to think. It says they've been around at least since 2008. Even if it came out in the first year, I doubt it. I doubt BlizzCon existed in year one of World of Warcraft. So I doubt it was like in 2006 or whatever. And I think I moved out of... it was probably right around 2007, 2008, somewhere in that ballpark, when I moved away from California. And I lived in Northern California also, so it would be quite a hike. It's a pretty dang long drive from the north to the south there. All right, so this is Steve L. Parker and Elijah Cabrera. Behind the scenes, these are maybe people that help set up. The entire company is involved in putting on the best show possible. Sure, you could measure by attendance or floor space, but what's more telling is how much effort it takes to put the show together. Planning the convention and bringing it all together is a year-round job for several people. Alicia Cabrera and Steve L. Parker, Blizzard's trade show and events managers, were kind enough to talk to the magazine during a less hectic time on the slow Tuesday before BlizzCon. Still, even as we spoke, the activity was non-stop as electric carts and forklifts formed a never-ending parade. Workers floated by for instructions, and cell phones rang more often than they fell silent. Yeah, I don't know. That just doesn't vibe as the kind of job I'd want to do. It'd be cool to be involved with Blizzard, but in that capacity, In the months before the show, the event managers keep everyone in the loop about what's going on. Even though there's a full-time team dedicated to company events such as BlizzCon, the entire company is involved in putting on the best show possible. Everyone is working in their own silos, and we're checking in and making sure everyone is on the same page, since something here can affect something there, Elisha says. Blizzard creates a comprehensive floor plan for the convention. I imagine her like pointing, detailing where everything goes. The plan starts with the obvious big things like stages, computers, and chairs, but also takes into account smaller elements like signs and graphics. It's nice to have a plan, but it's nothing without execution. Contractors are brought in to do rigging, lighting, set design, stage design, fabrications, and electrical work. My dad is a fabricator, a welder. IT is handled internally by Blizzard, so they send in their own crack squad. The Monday before the show is the first day of setup. The stages are erected and most of the rigging and lighting is ready. On Wednesday, the computers are set up, decorations are put in place, and booths are constructed. Most of the setup process is done by the end of Wednesday and rehearsals begin. For the live entertainment, every minute of every day is plotted and overseen by a stage manager. There are wranglers for grabbing people, making sure that they are on stage at the right time. New challenges arise with each BlizzCon, like new vendors or different types of side entertainment. But even this is a good thing, helping to keep the process and the show fresh. We like that it's not unroll it and pop it back up again from year to year, Steve says, abolishing any town in a box comparisons, like a gnome thing. BlizzCon starts Friday morning, and by then everything should be ready for prime time, though on at least one occasion the preparation came down to the last possible minute. Once the doors are open, the focus is on making sure the players have fun. This is the main stage stage, probably where I'm guessing they're standing up and giving presentations. It looks like we've got some Diablo in the background there, Diablo 3 stuff. Tracking a network of thousands. Now, I would imagine one of the most challenging things would be stress testing and doing the infrastructure trials and everything for running all of this, all those computers at the same time, including the presentation. In the IT Nerve Center, there are stacks of PCs still in their boxes, dozens of replacement computers lined up along a wall for quick deployment, and one big black cabinet on a pallet. This is the convention in a box, a giant server handling the PCs at BlizzCon. It is set up at Blizzard HQ, then loaded onto a truck and delivered to the show floor. It never leaves its pallet. So it's basically like a Blizz server that's closed off and set right there. That's kind of cool. The first BlizzCon had 300 PCs. The 2010 show has 2,000. Yong Yoon, global manager of internal information services, keeps a watchful eye over the computers in the 30-person strong IT team at BlizzCon. Even though setting up thousands of PCs and making sure everything is working right with in-development game software seems like it could be an IT nightmare, the Blizzard team finds it fun. This is the best bonding experience we have, Yoon says. Yeah, because most of the time if you think about massive teams of IT, like the business I work for, we've got massive IT, but they're spread across all of the different plant sites, and there are certain times of the year when they do have to have massive tech things happening, and you can just tell when they all get together. It's like that's most of the time there's 1 to 2 people on each site, and they have just these rare times a year when they all get to work together as a team. So I imagine it would be pretty fun. To keep an eye on all these machines, the team has cameras in the rafters so they can spot a recalcitrant PC and quickly dispatch a replacement. We prepare for the craziest scenario possible, like Ocean's 11 style. That's a cool, what's that, I forgot his name, the Rhaegar, Naylor, I'm mixing up like NFL players' names. Up here when they talked about the giant statue, Jim Raynor, there it is. So there's our larger-than-life Jim Raynor, I believe. It doesn't get this way by magic. There's all the stacked PCs spread out. Thousands of hours at work are put in each year to produce BlizzCon, and it all comes to a head in the days and hours before those doors open to the public. What does BlizzCon look like before preparations begin? If you can imagine an airplane hangar, you're not far off. The 4 halls of the Anaheim Convention Center encompass 800,000 square feet of space. To get an idea of how big that is, just know that if you're walking from Hall A to Hall D and a friendly worker drives by in a cart and offers you a ride, you take it without a second thought. That's that big. I like the Cataclysm sign above. We get geeked up together, baby. StarCraft, Diablo. I like how they're lit kind of differently. That's World of Warcraft based on what you're playing. That's a neat touch. Here's the cosplay. That's what we saw up front. I wonder if she's supposed to be, it looks like she's drinking a beer, but I wonder if she's supposed to be like the Graveyard Angel. This is a Diablo, this looks like a Diablo wizard, sorcerer, whatever. I have no idea what the heck this little thing is. Is that supposed to be, maybe supposed to be a goblin? That's off though for these people that even try it. Or she could be an angel from Diablo also. Who goes to BlizzCon? Well, thousands of players each year make the trek to Anaheim for 2 days of fun. Due to the amazing demand for tickets, many of the attendees treat their BlizzCon badges like precious gems. Don't expect that to change. Although it might appear that there's room for more in the halls, there's a reason for limiting access, partially to ensure players have a better chance to interact with Blizzard developers and employees. We know there's a sort of a lottery winner feel for getting BlizzCon tickets, and we feel a responsibility every minute attendees are here to make it the best experience it can be, Steve says. Even though they've got a lot on their plate, Cataclysm, anyone, Blizzard employees consider BlizzCon to be the highlight of the year. People look forward to working at BlizzCon, Steve says. We get geeked up together. Each person working the con gets a document outlining the importance of attendee relations. Feedback stations are set up and the results are studied carefully. For example, the 2009 feedback showed how popular the Cinematics Theater was, so it was redesigned for 2010. Okay. I mean, I love Blizzard cinematics. They crush it. I gotta say, they crush it. The latest cinematic for War Within, also just great graphics. All of this is done with one goal in mind, Steve says. We want people to say, I went and it was great and I want to go again. All right, so here's some more crafting. This looks, I have no idea. That looks almost hellish. Like a demon. That is like a cow head. I wonder. I think those are probably supposed to be like cows from Diablo, like there is no cow. Costume contest participants, which watch Jay Moore on the big screen as they wait backstage for their turn in the spotlight. I'm thinking, is that Jay Moore, the comedian who was on like SNL back in the day for a year or two? And here they are kind of scoping it out. That looks like Tenacious D. Yeah, it is. It's Jack Black. And yeah, Kyle there. That's pretty cool. You're an idiot. I didn't say lizards. Jack Black to Kyle Gass. I love Tenacious D. Love him. And I was going to say that looks like Dave Grohl. And right up there it says Tenacious D pulled out the big guns for BlizzCon closing ceremony, recruiting Dave Grohl, veteran of Foo Fighters and Nirvana, to play drums. I just listened to a podcast with Dave Grohl the other day, and he's an entertaining guy, really cool. I mean, even with the new like Princess Peach song and everything, especially in my high school years, oh my gosh, Tenacious D was amazing. I just loved it. And this isn't like the Napster days. I would have to find some of their rarer stuff and burn it off Napster live performances, and I had like my own burnt Tenacious D CD. Just love them. So funny. Shortly after Tenacious D, the entertainment for the 2010 closing ceremony, leaves the stage Saturday night, the crew will begin breaking everything down again. Before Monday dawns, we'll be back where we started, with 4 gigantic empty halls. Okay, so that was that one. And now we're going to get to some community. It says Shining in the Arena. He has a badge for BlizzCon, so maybe this is some kind of esports competition that we did at BlizzCon. So let's read it. Since its inception, the World of Warcraft arena has been a bastion of PvP combat in Azeroth, Outland, and beyond. It effectively ushered in an era of competition that allows players to display not only their own individual skills, but also their ability to work as a cohesive team. Their rewards, some of the most prestigious mounts and titles in-game, and massive cash prizes in real life. Among those able to revel in the cutthroat atmosphere are the members of Lights, Camera, Action, who with the help of the best warlock in the world, have been extremely successful despite being such a newly formed team. That warlock, Patrick Inflame Castales, who this is him probably, maybe, but I'm not sure because it says center, has been heralded by esports outlets around the world as the best warlock to ever set foot in the arena. I wonder if he still plays. A tall order to be sure, but Castales is more often than not the common denominator of good play. He's managed to bring an entirely different team with him to BlizzCon each year. Inflame is so confident with his skills that he even admitted that he and his team hadn't practiced much in preparation for BlizzCon. We, Lights, Camera, Action, played like 5 practice games for BlizzCon, lost most, and then logged off, laughs Patrick. That's him. Oh, man. He looks serious about being a warlock, maybe in real life, too. Okay, but yeah, I wonder if these guys still play as they try to look super serious and tough about being arena PvP gamers. I just can't. Sorry. It should say Shining in the Arena Spotlight by Andy Salisbury. While plenty of strong arena teams compete, few can hold a candle to Lights, Camera, Action. And their leader, who many consider the best warlock in the world. I don't know, did you see my episode last night where I used Soulstone and Healthstones and didn't die? With mobs my own level, I killed like 2 or 3 at a time. I mean, I'm throwing my hat in the ring, Patrick. So, Anton Krudyavtsev, Daliex, or Delu, is a shaman. Patrick Castella is Inflame, Warlock, and Gino Tanos, Lope the Druid. I wonder where they met. They meet online. Cutting. Maybe this is the first part of another page. We'll come back to that. Yeah, what is this from? It just says cutting. Cutting practice for a tournament of this magnitude may come off as cocky, but each member of Lights Camera Action lives in a different country and speaks a different language. Patrick, the team's warlock, lives in Germany. Anton Kudryavtsev, the team's shaman, resides in Russia, and the team's druid, Gino Tanos, is from Hungary. It makes practicing hard, but we all speak English, says Patrick. It's not our native language, so it can be difficult to understand each other at times. There, maybe his character, Witch's character, does look quite cool. Regardless of borders, each player comes into the arena due to their unquenchable thirst for competition. They took a moment to think about their favorite moments from past seasons. Season 2, exclaims Patrick. Seemingly, warlocks just couldn't die. If we spam Drain Life, we could take 2 warriors for at least a minute straight. That was a blast. Anton, the team's shaman, reminisces of his days playing a shaman-warrior composition in the 2v2 bracket in the Burning Crusade. It was a lot of fun, he says. Wind Fury Totem with Mace spec was practically unstoppable, and in a Storm Herald, game over. While most players generally understand the growing pains involved in each patch, arena players have to consider each change carefully. Even something seemingly small and a hotfix can make what was once an unbeatable team configuration completely unviable for arena play. Despite challenges that updates have brought, each one of these players stuck with their classes through thick and thin. Patrick states, despite changes that have happened during patches, I've always stuck with Warlock. Even in Season 5, when they'd undergone some drastic changes, I still stuck with my class. That's how I feel about Assassin Rogue. Goods and bads. Right now, I wouldn't call it full bad, but they definitely nerfed the heck out of it. I like it. It's taken a downtick for sure. Gino adds, same here. In Season 5, Druid was extremely difficult, Patrick concurs. Oh yeah, Death Knights could just dispel all your heal over times with one Scourge Strike. That was brutal. Yeah, in Shadowlands, Assassins were just trash. They were so hard to play for such mediocre returns. Here's the internal fold-out poster. We've got some goblins getting shot and fighting Worgen. It's also the front and back cover of the magazine. It's pretty nifty. Patrick cashed in as usual at the 2009 regionals. This is his check. They made $6 whole grand that they're going to split 3 ways and probably get taxed on. Even though you're a combatant, you've got some time to laugh a little. There they are having fun. Sitting next to each other. That's cool. Communication is key to winning, even if it's shouted in a language you don't know. And they are shouting. I'm not much of a shouter while I'm gaming. It's beneficial to play against the best opponents possible when practicing, as is true in every sport in the world. Picking the brains. Magicians never reveal their secrets, and neither do good arena players. Sure, you can watch their matches, pick apart their videos, and watch live streams of your favorites playing, but it's difficult to find out exactly what makes them great. And while the members of Lights Camera Action are difficult to read, they did reveal a few of their secrets and their thoughts on how one should approach arena matches. Yeah, it's like asking a pro football team about their playbook or whatever. They're only going to tell you a smidge. We don't really have difficulty with any particular team. If an opposing team is good, they're just good, Patrick explained. Sure, there are some compositions that are better than others, but that should never be your excuse for losing. It's never fun getting cheese, but if you prepare enough, you can defeat even your most direct counters by playing at a high level. Lights Camera Action is a very good team with very good players, but they're not perfect. In fact, during the Blizzard 2010 European Warcraft Invitational, rival team AAA, AAA, managed to defeat them in the final round, setting the stage for BlizzCon 2010's US tournament. And while those on the outside saw a fierce rivalry growing, Patrick notes that they actually practice against each other on a regular basis. They beat us out earlier for first place, but we've got a good relationship with them. Rivalries are important, but it's beneficial to play against the best opponents possible when practicing. It makes both teams far better players. When asked for words of advice for up-and-coming players, Patrick was, for once a man, a few words. Just play, 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 play. Watch PvP videos, try to bind everything, and understand your global cooldown. Practice won't make perfect, but it'll give you one heck of an advantage. Yeah, but those are like basic tips. I'm not a big binder. I bind just a bare minimum. I do some binding. But I think for healing, that would be key for me. But I could see it. I could see it also if you're really getting down to like Twitch skills. I could see that. The final countdown. 1. Lights, camera, action were among the favorites walking into BlizzCon's 2010 Arena tournament. They unfortunately fell short of their goal of first place. An early loss in the main bracket dropped them to the consolation bracket. While they managed to decimate the other teams there, they fell to the powerhouse of Complexity Red, who made it to the final round. The team that managed to take first place was a familiar name, AAA. The outcome isn't what they had hoped for, but it's likely that at least Patrick will be back next year. By then, Cataclysm will have been out for some time, and the arena will once again undergo massive fundamental changes. As for who will accompany him to BlizzCon 2011, only time will tell. Yeah, he might be like, we lost, screw you guys. Alright, so this is making I'm guessing, based on the seating and what they mentioned before, this is going to maybe be the cinematic team, and we read about that in the table of contents. So, Fausto De Martini, that's this guy. He's a 3D art director for cinematics. Chris Thunig is a cinematic 2D art director. Mark Messenger is a project director of cinematics. Jeff Chamberlain is the cinematics project lead, and homeboy on the end, Jonathan Berube, cinematic VFX, visual effects art director. That's this guy. I don't know what that is in his hand. I think it's sunglasses because he's cool. Bringing home the hardware, the cinematics team finished at the top of 2 categories at the 2010 Visual Effects Society Awards. Mark Messenger and Philip Hillenbrand won Outstanding VFX in a Video Game Trailer for Cataclysm, and Fausto De Martini, Shin Wong, Scott Lange, and Glenn Ramos received Outstanding Character in a Video Game for StarCraft 2's Kerrigan. This is not my background. I have no background in visual arts or visual effects at all. Making the scene. But it's cool. The creative minds behind... I wonder what you'd have to do if it's more of a techie thing or a visual arts thing. Like, what kind of degrees are you needing for this training? The creative minds behind the Deathwing cinematic discuss bringing the world of Azeroth to life. So if you like the Deathwing cinematic in Cataclysm, which we'll watch when we play that, and as they do Cataclysm Classic, you'll be able to see it again. That's these guys. They made it. As an artistic medium, cinematic trailers have grown far beyond their Hollywood roots. While Blizzard Entertainment is known for its games, it's also known for the short CG films it produces to tell its tales. Thanks in part to Blizzard's cinematics team, the people behind the trailers and movies for World of Warcraft Cataclysm, StarCraft 2, and Diablo 3, the medium overflows with amazing special effects, action, and drama. Yeah, I wonder how long it takes them to make those few-minute videos. I imagine it's actually probably more expensive and definitely more time-intensive than just filming regular movies, which to me makes it all the more impressive, especially if you see something, if you remember like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, the movie. Just wow. It probably took them years and years and years to make that because of the intensiveness of the CGI for a whole movie. World of Warcraft Official Magazine sat down with Jeff Chamberlain, Cinematic Projects lead, Mark Messenger, Cinematics Project Director, Fausto De Martini, Cinematics 3D Art Director, Chris Thunig, Cinematic 2D Art Director, and Jonathan Berube, Cinematic VFX Art Director, after BlizzCon's premiere of the Cataclysm trailer to ask them about their creative process, inspiration, and rotten lobsters. All right, so this will be our final article, but I actually kind of want to read this, so we'll go a little over today to check it out. What's the process you go through to create a cinematic such as the Cataclysm trailer? In this case, the World of Warcraft comes down and hangs out with us in cinematics. We get Chris Metzen involved too, because he's kind of the creative juice behind a lot of this stuff. Then we'll just start talking about ideas. Usually the game team comes with a basic idea of what the expansion represents. And then it's our job to work with them to try to think of some really cool way of encapsulating that and spreading that essential idea to the world. It's one part film, one part commercial, but the important thing is that it's all heart. It's really trying to put the best face on whatever the latest expansion for the game is. It's all because everybody wants it to be the most amazing thing that we've done. So you work closely together at this point. On this project, we really had to communicate well, have meetings and look through the work and constantly be exchanging ideas. Basically, what will happen is the game team will come down and we'll jam a few ideas. From that meeting, we don't always necessarily come away with one solid idea, but something might spark a great idea for Mark, and he'll run off and get with our storyboard artists. We have a full storyboard team of 3 to 5 people, and they develop full-on animatics that we can then play for the guys who were in that original meeting. We say, is this cool? Is that what you guys want? Then it goes from there and usually iterates a few times. The Cataclysm cinematic had 3 general phases. Prototyping was overseen by Chris on the art direction side of things, and that includes everything related to the look, colors, composition, shapes, and just the general process from paper or storyboard to the first frames that have colors. Then we would go into more of a manufacturing phase where we'd actually build all the sets and all the creatures, and that was overseen by Fausto. At the very end, it would fall in my area, the visual effects. That was more about lighting and colors. Imagine Chris Metzen's rise here. He starts as, coding, helping program and do story for Warcraft Orcs and Humans, to where he's literally writing and drawing the fat instruction manual, to where now this dude just pops in all throughout. He's overseeing the cinematics that they do and every little piece of World of Warcraft. He really was so important. It's a shocker that they let him go. I guess whatever. It's not like they could chain him up or anything. And I'm glad he's back. We're going to see. My hopes are high that it's going to revitalize some of juice it up a little bit. Usually when we're getting pretty close to done, probably within the last month or 2 of the project, we'll bring in the game team that we're building the cinematic for and just see what their reaction is. Often that's led to really good feedback. For instance, with the Wrath of the Lich King piece, we showed it to Chris Metzen and the game's lead designer, and they said, we love everything, but you really need to change this one thing, which was that you could see Arthas' face too much. We'd been looking at it for so long, it never even really dawned on us, and as soon as we did, it's like, yeah, that's perfect. So they're a good fresh set of eyes because they're so close to the game and know certain aspects of it that even we don't know because they're building it. The reason that it all works is because everybody is very single-minded about their passion for the game and their passion for quality in general. We can have many minds, and sometimes we have very spirited discussions about how we're going to do something, but it's all because everybody wants it to be the most amazing thing that we've done. What's your personal favorite cinematic? I like the Wrath one quite a bit because I'm from Canada and it was all snowy and awesome. I like Building a Better Marine, the StarCraft 2 trailer, quite a bit too. I think the one in Warcraft 3 where Arthas comes back and kills his father was pretty moving. That's true. That is a good one. Pretty powerful. I feel like the way executive art director Nick Carpenter chose to shoot that was really, really powerful, showing the shadow only. Yeah, the shadow on the wall, or just him walking down the corridor and having that last moment where he's checking out the rose petal and thinking, am I really doing this? And then, just on a personal note, the first Warcraft 3 teaser was pretty fun, mostly because it was the first project I worked on here. For me, it's always the one we're currently working on. There's always that urge to raise the bar a little further the next time around. It's a bit of a motivating factor. The one that, this is cool, this is the classic cinematic they're showing where they've iterated and drawn the Dwarf Hunter that you get to see. There's the Wrath one. There's always that urge to raise the bar. Made me conscious of Blizzard was probably the Warcraft 3 cinematic with the crow. That was the first time I'd seen anything from Blizzard, when they're doing Medivh there. And that's where it registered that there's somebody out there doing really cool stuff. The StarCraft 2 teaser, that one was pretty sweet. It just worked so well. It all happened in that one room. It's tight. You've got that one character, and it's all about that character. I have a favorite shot. For some reason, I've always totally dug the dwarf coming over the rise with the bear in the first World of Warcraft cinematic. That whole opening shot is awesome to me. That's a great cinematic in general. I just watched that cinematic because it was on the website. Yeah, that shot's really good. Everything about it, the way the bear moves, the way the dwarf kind of goes, hey, come on. I'm from Brazil. 7 or 8 years ago, Blizzard wasn't shipping anything to Brazil. I really wanted to get the box of DVDs that Blizzard has with all the cinematics. So I had to hire a company to open a P.O. box in the United States to ship the box to me in Brazil because that was the only way for me to watch it. That's how hardcore I was about the cinematics. And when I watched all the Warcraft 3 cinematics, I was just so amazed by them. That shot where the camera is panning up Arthas' sword, I watched the shot over and over and over. I guess if that's your jam, like cinematics. Was there a moment for the rest of you when you knew you wanted to be in this profession? Are you computer geeks or are you art people who just know how to work a computer? My brother at a very young age showed, that's kind of the question I sort of have. showed a lot of promise in computer programming, so my parents always gave him a computer. And I was always the guy that was using it for the other end of the spectrum, like making little ninjas run across the screen or do kicks and stuff like that. He challenged me at a young age. He said that if I ever designed an entire game, this is back in the Commodore 64 days, so it's not that hard to do back then, right? He'd program it. And so I probably designed like 15 games, and he was always, that's too much like the Bruce Lee game or whatever, so I'd have to start all over again. So even from an early age, I was doing computer animation and computer graphics that way. I just kind of grew up into it, I guess. Yeah, there's more of this Wrath stuff. Pretty awesome. Raise the bar a little further next time around. Enter Sindragosa, by the way, sidebar. The opening cinematic for Wrath of the Lich King expansion depicts Arthas Menethil using Frostborn to raise the Frostworm Sindragosa. As with all World of Warcraft cinematics, players can view it at any time from the login screen. I grew up watching lots of cartoons, and I was really inspired by that. I always wanted to animate. I animated a lot on the computer, but I remember that right when I was starting college, 3D became a little bit more accessible on a home computer. There was a videotape called The Mind's Eye, and it was all these artists making really, really early CG. If you were to watch it now, you'd probably think it was horrible, but at that time, it was just phenomenal, right? I found out it was accessible at the computer lab in college, and it was a brand new study there, so I joined. I haven't stopped since. I've never wanted to do anything else. All I ever wanted to do since I was a kid was make movies. Storyboarding was kind of a means to an end. When I came out here to LA, I wanted to get into the film industry. I could draw, so I started drawing. Actually, I started out in makeup effects, but I quickly realized that storyboarding would get me closer to the actual filmmaking process, the core of it, and the storytelling part. I was a pencil and paper guy until I got to Blizzard, and then my buddy Ben Dye, who was our main storyboard artist before me, introduced me to some animation drawing programs and working on a Cintiq tablet. So I'm working digitally now, and it's like I'll never go back to paper again. It's just too intuitive. It's too fun. I think I was in elementary school. I had a buddy who had a Nintendo, and he would play Castlevania, and I would draw side view levels. That was seriously, I got to say, Castlevania and Mega Man. When I was a kid, the way that I would nerd out, and I was a D&D nerd too, is I would just design my own levels, maps, worlds of Mega Man, and I had these whole themes. It was, and I see some of that in my own son now. It's a shame. Like part of me, the inner, like hardcore core of myself, if I could get there, I think that would just be like my childhood dream. It's so far gone from where I am now. It's kind of sad, and that's why I come home, and after I hang up, the work outfit, and I try to close my mind off from the politics and the office squabbles of the day. Why I am willing to daily devote so much time to this show, because some part of me just wants to go back there. Wants to not just go back there, wants that to be my now. I just love it. I love living in these kind of worlds, and I did from a young age. I've always loved that, creating and that kind of stuff. And this is just a channel where I could mix a hobby with a creation. But I would love to do something like that. I just, I'm sure a lot of us, these guys sound like they nailed it. They got that core of what they like, but and a lot of people do. And I think that's how you get to see that combination of success and longevity. So there's a little envy that comes when I see people that get to work in such a cool job. And there are parts about my job that I do really like, but I would drop it in a heartbeat to just draw side-scrolling Castlevania levels or whatever and make money doing it. I put them in the mail and sent them to Nintendo and told them, you guys should do that. I was like 9 years old, right? I would draw guns, all these crazy weapons like in the game Contra on the Nintendo. I'd draw rocket launchers and show them to my buddies. No running in Deathwing's halls. Oh, this is why they said we're going to continue, because it's showing some cinematics. Before we get back to that guy's sentence here, they have Darkshore Post-Storm. So I can't really read the words there. But it says the Cataclysm trailer features a lot of destruction. This is like storyboarding, but very few shots of panicked individuals straight out of a Godzilla movie. Mark explains this was a carefully considered decision. We thought a lot about whether or not we're going to have a bunch of races in the movie. One of the things that we wanted was to try to stay away from was the idea of not doing enough justice to those races, having tiny little guys leaping off of buildings and stuff like that. I think that would minimize the value of those races, and I just felt like the whole thing was cleaner if it was really just about Deathwing and the environments. Not to mention, it gives you this feeling like these people have all fled, but then you come back and play in the game and you're really inhabiting with the people that stayed. So I think it's actually long run a good decision also. Back of Deathwing. More. This is all storyboarding. Thousand Needles as it's flooded. Internal caves, the place where they built Deathwing's armor. 99% inspiration and 1% crustacean. So here's some more drawing. This looks like an orcish war tower. Wooden logs. This is a Baron's watchtower in color. Yeah. For the cinematics team, inspiration strikes in the strangest places. I'm at this restaurant, Jonathan explains, and I ordered the lobster tail. After eating it, I flipped it upside down, and the shell was so hydralisk looking. I need to bring this back and show this to the guys, I thought. I asked for a to-go box for an empty lobster tail shell, and the cook was like, whatever. The next day, I'm in the sunny parking lot taking close-up photos of this lobster tail, and people are like, what are you doing? Hold on, I'm not done yet, I told them. I'm also going to film it to see how light moves around it. Then it ended up in the fridge because I figured I'd use it for later testing. That's right, Fausto recalls. But after a while, something started to smell really bad in the kitchen area, and we went in there and found a rotting lobster. We all started yelling, Jonathan, you forgot your lobster, dude. No one would confirm if Jonathan had nicknamed his inspiration Mr. Pinchy. That's the story at the beginning of the and talk about rotten lobsters. Perhaps, so let's just, we'll read a couple notes because I'm not going to squint and read them all, but it says like, perhaps shaped root texture with Orgrimmar Tower, all orcish anyway. Wooden logs make up most of the structure, vary the color and grain so it doesn't look too boring. Exposed inner bark on spikes is light. So just little notes like that. And everybody said later in your life you're going to be someone that draws that stuff, right? And I would say that doesn't exist. That job doesn't exist. Don't worry about it. Here's more outside of Booty Bay. I mean, it does exist now. In the flesh. Before you can place the star of the show into a cinematic, you have to figure out what he or she looks like. On the right is a high-resolution rendering of Deathwing made by Blizzard artists. After that, when I was a teenager, my friend and I would film each other skateboarding a lot. I started editing clips because we would miss our tricks 9 times out of 10. We'd have to cut them off the tape, so I used to use 2 VHS players, and I would stop, record to get only the good clips. And then I saw Jurassic Park. I said, who did that and how? I want to make dinosaurs that look completely real. Oh man, that movie was life-changing for me too. That said, I want dinosaurs in my skateboarding movies. It combined the whole editorial process of the film medium plus drawing. I don't want print. I want to draw on films. How does it work? My mom did research about Jurassic Park and found they used this program called Soft Image 3D, which was a local product down in Montreal. They had a training center, and I went there and did the whole computer animation program. One of my teachers said, you can draw the real stuff. You should do a Disney school. I went to Sheridan College for a classical animation filmmaking degree, which is how they make the Disney movies, and then came back after that into the 3D medium. When I was doing films in the 2D world, all the tools were very accessible. Then you go to the 3D world, and all the tools are much more complicated, and you can't do it yourself. You need specialists to help you out. I'm always keeping on top of my game so I can go back to the kid inside me who just wants to do his own film over the weekend. I was always interested in movies, but it felt really far away from me growing up in East Germany. I didn't think I'd end up here. I remember the first time he came into Blizzard, he brought me a piece of the Berlin Wall. Yeah, that was pretty memorable. It was probably phony, but that's what they said it was. That's all right. To me, it was completely real. I never actually realized this is something I could really do for a living until I came over here to witness early pre-production on a movie, one of those Chucky movies. I think it was Chucky 5 or something. I got to walk into one of those LA warehouses where they build a lot of the animatronics, a place called Yeager Shop, named after the special effects creator Kevin Yeager. It looked like nothing from the outside. I walked inside. The walls were filled with latex puppets, and I recognized a ton of them. There were the Starship Troopers, people with their heads caved in, the Crypt Keeper, all this stuff I'd seen in Germany a long time ago. there were all these guys working on it, making molds and putting little hairs in with needles one by one. And I was like, these people are getting paid for this sort of stuff. There must be a way to do this for a living, right? And that kind of kicked it off for me. Drawing is kind of my thing. So from then on, I just worked at it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Blizzard cinematics have a distinctive look, but all of you probably have your own personal influences. What has influenced your work? I can say that for a lot of us, movies are a huge influence. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, anything sci-fi or fantasy, we all dig that a lot. Aliens, Blade Runner. Definitely, more recently, Avatar, because they use a similar pipeline to what we do. So it shows you what someone else is capable of doing with the same tools you have in your hand. And when you see it, you're like, okay, what are the differences here? How many people do they have? Do they have more budget? Different ways of approaching it? What is it? That always makes more of a ripple effect than the other movies you get to watch more as a spectator enjoying the finished product. Besides that, influence is really everywhere, right? I mean, we see it on trips. We look at the classical paintings. We go out and shoot whatever it is that we need to wrap our heads around. A lot of us grew up with pop culture influences, obviously, but we really want to look at any type of, oh, that's the cool Deathwing sidebar. That's dope. You want, especially for the main character, memorable, powerful silhouette. He is cool picture. There's them chatting it up. Ramming speed, probably about actual RAM. That looks so staged right there. Sorry, guys. Within cinematics, most personal computers are loaded with 16 gigs of RAM, but some effects designers working on the Cataclysm's trailer Walls of Fire need to upgrade to 64 gigs of RAM to handle hundreds of frames each, packed with about 60 gigs of data. Yeah, and that's nothing nowadays. Inspiration out there and just take it all in. One of the challenges with some of the effects on Cataclysm was that we didn't have a whole lot of frame of reference for what things should look like. What does the sky look like when it's completely full of fire? What does a dam breaking a giant head with all this water coming out of it look like? Where are we supposed to go on YouTube and find a video of that? There was a lot of research and development to try to figure out what that should really look like. One of the hardest shots in there is the shot where we pull out and the 3 battering rams are all coming in and pounding on Deathwing. Then the hand comes out covered in lava and slams down and all the rocks go flying. And then we pull back and all this smoke is rising up around Deathwing's head. I think everybody in this room and practically everybody on our team had a hand in that shot because it was such a big deal. It was such a big camera move and encompassed so many different things happening. I think for that reason, it stands out in my mind as one of the most successful shots that we did because it was truly a team effort. We really want to look at any type of inspiration out there and just take it all in. I get a lot of inspiration from the Navy. Funnily enough, I think they have some of the most sophisticated design. It's because the Navy is a business, right? And they have a very precise task. All of the design around any engineering they do is to fulfill a goal. There's no sort of artistic input in any of their design, or very little. It's just forms full of function. To me, that's such a strong visual language because you look at a piece and know exactly what it does. Sometimes as we design something, we try to just make it look cool, and then sometimes it's hard to make it read well in terms of what it's going to do. I have a whole new sort of respect for the designers and engineers from the Navy or anyone who's a transportation designer, people who design cars or car dashboard. The whole functionality behind forms and the layout of how things are placed. It's true. It goes with the principle of not designing out of thin air, right? Having something to base your ideas on, something that people will recognize in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, the challenge for us is always combining that to make something memorable. You want to make sure whatever you're doing, especially for the main character, is something that's going to have a memorable, powerful silhouette. It's like, okay, that's Kerrigan. So combining and balancing all those elements is the challenge we always have in front of us. Yeah, designing something that has a lot of character in its appearance or in the details reveals more and more information about the personality behind it. That's always very fun. Every time you add an item on a character or adjust a layout on a film set, it's like asking, who lives here? Are they tall? Are they short? Who made Deepholm? Was this 1,000 years ago? If they crafted these crystal combs, what tools did they use? What are their resources? How tall were they? How big were they? It's a study of who's responsible for this, because that's not me. I'm not the engineer here. I don't live here. It's these people. And how can you make any item recognizable in terms of who drives it or lives in it? There's so many great artists at Blizzard. Anytime you get artwork from another team, it's just so inspirational. You get a 2D illustration of the new Diablo or something, and you're just like, we can't wait to build that, to tell that story. You're only as good as your reference, sidebar, Jonathan says. To get the look and feel of the cinematic right, the team takes regular field trips that in the past included a tank museum to handle missiles and the zoo for a chance to pet a rhino. Marines, no, not Jim Raynor, have even visited the Blizzard offices to walk the group through a helicopter's weapon system. One of my biggest inspirations, funnily enough, is the game. I don't play the game at all. I'd never played World of Warcraft until I had to make a character when Derek Simmons, an ex-producer, came and gave me the CDs for World of Warcraft. I was getting coffee in the morning and I didn't know how to name my troll priest, so I named him Kona Blend because that was the type of coffee I drank every day. Every time I played the game, I wouldn't actually play the game. I would just look around and say, I get it. Now I want to see the movie version. And there goes the cinematic. Now that's what's crazy, is these guys, they love it. They're making this world, but the people that are making some of the most awesome parts of the game aren't gamers. They don't play. They don't care. That just blows my mind. Blows my mind. When we go to a movie theater and see the photorealism, it's such a deep visual language, and there's an insane amount of detail, but the ideas are sometimes not that cool. In the game, you see these crazy layouts and scenery, and the ideas are really, really cool. We take that and deliver it in a language that people see every day. That, to me, is the reason why I'm in cinematics. I don't play the game, but I watch people play. I don't want to be a Tauren. I just want to go have a Coors Light while sitting on my siege tank. I want to see that and take a group photo of my character with a siege tank. To me, that's the dream. And I get that too. So here's our feature. We're going to do a lore one on the next episode. We're not going to do it now. And I really like when we get to kick off with a lore one, especially the working dear to my heart. But when I picture, I'm such a gamer, and gaming has been such a core part of my life that I just don't know. I can't fathom life without it. I always have that thought, what do you do to pass the time? If you're not just sure, an easy thought is just consume TV. But if you're not just consuming TV or streaming or whatever, what are you doing? Are you just sitting and enjoying nature? Do you close your eyes and listen to music? And even that, I guess that speaks to who I am. What do I want to do? I want to be able to be immersed. And I want to be immersed in a world, a vista that I can appreciate. My favorite vacations are not the big city or the museums. It's where I can sit on a mountain and go on a hike. That to me is pleasure. Sit with a glass of wine and watch a sunset over a lake. Sounds like awesome to me. So if that was my life, I could see a life like that where I could let video games fade out. But from the flip side, in the comforts of my home, a game that is a world like Warcraft, you are immersing it. Now, I'm not just standing around looking at the horizons, but it allows you to fully engage and immerse in something different. And I think that's really cool. And that's why I love this game and why I make this show, because it's truly something I have a passion for. And I'm glad you guys do too. If you made it this far, you absolutely do. And I can't overstate it enough. You all rock. I appreciate you so much. And with this episode in the Pipe 5x5, I look forward to making the next episode of Lore of Warcraft. Peace, everyone. And I'll see you next time.